Enterprise Virtual Forum in partnership with Philippine Association of Colleges and Universities, or PACU, for the academic industry. My name is Omni Amisola La Rosa. I'm from PLDT Enterprise, and it is my honor to be your host for this morning. To all those who are tuned in, we truly appreciate you for taking time to be with us in this session. This morning, amidst the pandemic, we will get to hear key learnings from our distinguished speakers, as well as their best practices on how the academic industry has managed to mitigate the negative impact of this crisis situation. And most importantly, this session aims to highlight the role of technology as we enter the future of work, as well as how we navigate through our daily lives. If you have any questions and suggestions, feel free to key them in through the chat box. Before we begin, here's a quick rundown of our reminders. For uninterrupted viewing experience, make sure you have a stable internet connection. Feel free to use any device to view the virtual event. For better appreciation, turn up the volume or use your headphones. I think we're all ready. So it is my honor to introduce our first speaker. To officially start the program, allow me to introduce the President and Board Member of Philippine Association of Colleges and Universities, or PACU. She's also the President of Our Lady of Fatima University, Doctor of Pedagogy, honoris causa, University of Luzon Owner and President Management Program, 51st session. She went to Harvard Business in Boston, Massachusetts in March 2928. She is also a board member and vice chairperson of Coordinating Council of Private Educational Associations of the Philippines, or COCOPEA, and the board member of Private Education Assistance Committee, or PEAC. She was awarded as one of the most influential Filipino women in the world award, or Global FWN 100, the Filipino Women's Cup in San Francisco, USA last year. Let us all welcome Dr. Caroline Marian Enrique.
Thank you, Omni. Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome each and everyone to the PACU PLDT Virtual Learning Seminar Series. Today, we have a seminar on shifting the education paradigm in the time of the COVID-19 pandemic. Many thanks to President Bernard Villamor from CITU, Cebu Institute of Technology University. Many thanks to Professor Vicente Pijano, DPAA of Philippine Women's College of Tapu. Thank you also to Dr. Sherry Santaruma, the Dean of the College of Computer Studies at CITU, to Mr. Benedict Perez, the Corporate Management Events of PLDT Enterprise. PACU, together with PLDT, are one with you in finding solutions for our educational institutions in view of the COVID-19 pandemic. There are many questions that need solutions. They're most likely untested, but must be pursued as the best alternatives given the situation. Some of the pressing questions that would perhaps be needed to be answered be issued on how do we operationalize transitions from traditional deliveries to flexible options? How can we deliver education online? What preparations should we do? We may not have all the answers, but we hope that through this seminar series, we will be able to help you. It is in the context of Chair Advisory 7 that states that under Section A1D, that opening of classes for academic school year 2021 shall be based on the HEI's delivery modes. First, HEIs using fully online can open anytime after May 31. Number two, HEIs using flexible learning can open anytime in August 2020. Number three, HEIs using significant face-to-face can reopen no earlier than September 1, 2020. Everything is very fluid. Things may change. But what we know is that in spite of the uncertain times, we must prepare better so that regardless of the fluidity of the situation, we can transition easily. Again, many thanks to our resource speakers, our partners in PLDT, and to you, our participants, for joining us in this seminar series. Thank you and enjoy the seminar. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Caroline, for that wonderful welcoming remarks. And to continue reminding everybody, it is highly suggested and recommended to please turn off our cameras when the speaker is presiding, and also to mute our microphones to make sure that there will be no unnecessary noises while our speaker is speaking. Okay? And for this session, I'd like to also introduce to you. Okay, thank you, everyone. All right, so to tell us more about Made to Learn emergency teaching system, I'd like to introduce to you the University President of Cebu Institute of Technology. Okay, and we also have here, okay, so Bernard Borden, Cebu Institute of Technology, and also Dr. Cherry Romano, Dean of College of Computer Studies, and also Cebu Technology University. Okay, so to share with us some insights on the Made for Learn emergency teaching techniques, our next presenter is the fourth president of Cebu Institute of Technology University, or CITU, a licensed professional, electronics engineer, and an ASEAN engineer. He finished his Bachelor of Science in ECE from De La Salle University, Manila in 1990 and placed 13th in the board exam. His executive MBA or EMBA, Strategic Management Project or SMP, at the AIM enabled him to improve the dropout rate of freshmen in CIT. He was part of the cross-function team who created systemic frameworks that increased enrollment from 2008 to 2019. He serves as a member of the board of PACU and Cebu International School Treasurer. He also serves as the president of CESAFI, or Cebu Schools Athletic Federation Incorporated. Please help me welcome no less than Engineer Bernard Villamor.
Thank you very much, Omni, and good morning, everyone. It was March 16 when Cebu City just got on lockdown, and like all of us, we did not know what to do. Luckily, it was our finals week, so we were able to close the second semester, but that is a story for another day. In the midst of all the negativity, we heard the faint voices of our students who wanted to continue their education. So CIT University, with its greatest resource, its people, created and ran an emergency remote teaching summer from April to just last week in the midst of this ECQ in Cebu. 3 months just passed, and we learned a lot from the journey, and we would like to share it with you. To backtrack a bit, it was through weekly virtual discussions with PACU members, led by PACU President and Our Lady of Fatima University President, Dr. Carol Enriquez. The sessions, about a dozen of them already to date, have become a platform for an open exchange of our fears, our ideas, our wishes, questions, and more questions, and most importantly, our collective hope. I learned so many things from the wisdom of the members, and the hope triggered CIT University's action and journey to try the uncomfortable and new frontier, which at that time is distance learning. To the photographer, the best camera that you have in your hand when the moment comes, it's not the camera that you don't have, it's the camera phone that you usually have in your pocket. Using this analogy, we leveraged on what we had to assemble this emergency remote teaching platform in less than a month from scratch. Cognizant of our three strategic pillars, our people, our culture, and the technology available to us and to our students, we had a Lego-like mindset that the bits and pieces were already there, and we just had to orchestrate a new way of delivering education with new roles highlighted, new tasks created, with no manual and just in time to address the pain points and wishes of those faint voices of our students. The plan was to design and launch an emergency remote system, get feedback, learn from it, and try again. It's the classic plan, do, check, act cycle. But we knew we had to be faster than normal and iterate quicker than our own comfort zone. The outcome is an emergency remote teaching platform that we called Multiple Approaches for Distance Education, to be renamed later, and we called it MADE, made for learners, made for learning, made for the times, made for ECQ. I am proud to share MADE, but not as proud as how I saw the people, how I saw our people and the teams, the academic council, the deans, the chairs, the heads, our crisis management group, our student services, the teachers, the admin, our quality assurance, our e-learning team, our marketing team, our student success office, new task forces. They all rose up to face the challenge with optimism, leveling up and accepting new roles, like marketing their own department through authentic and creative videos to address pain points with unthought of speed. They really surprised me. And I thank them for doing this in the name of our students and in the name of learning continuity and remembering our why we are here in the first place. So with me is the chief architect of MADE, who will share the details so that it may also inspire ideas that can enhance your journey so you can give it your own flavor. I'd like to give the floor now to the Dean of the College of our Computer Studies, a Center of Excellence for the last 10 years, Dean Dr. Cherilyn Santa Romana.
Thank you very much, President William Moore. Let me now share the Made for Learners framework. Can you see the screen? Yes, okay. So the Made for Learners framework, let me first start the presentation by a timeline of our activity. So you know that in March 16, all classes were suspended and Luzon was placed on a lockdown. And then at the same time, Cebu City was also placed under GCQ. It was during this time when school transitioned to online classes. It was also during this time when CIT started transitioning our operations to online. And on March 28, Cebu City was placed under ECQ. A week after schools in the Philippines transitioned to online, on March 22, the governor of Cebu urged DepEd and the other schools to cancel their online classes. The same thing happened in the big universities in Manila. So there were a lot of complaints from students because of the difficulty of internet access, the lack of devices, and so on. So for the first time, online education had a negative implication and a negative connotation. Meanwhile, in CIT University, we started transitioning to a full work from home setup last March 23. It was during this time when we had our first online meeting. I remember this situation very well. We were very anxious because of all the challenges that we were facing, but we knew that we had to continue. But we decided not to use the term online because of all of the negative connotations it would have. There were a lot of schools being bashed by a lot of their students, and we do not want to be at the same situation. So we decided instead that we will use the term distance learning or distance education. So after a lot of consultation, a lot of chats, a lot of discussions, we came up with the framework, multiple approaches to distance education, 4 days after that first meeting. And then on March 31, we sent letters to the CHED, to the mayor, and to the governor, expressing our intention to offer the summer program for April and May using the Made for Learners framework. And on April 3, we launched the Made for Learning framework. Now, at 8 o'clock in the evening, we were waiting anxiously for how the students will react to this one. After a few hours, we were so happy because we only got one angry reaction from the student. We actually got a lot of likes, a lot of loves. So after 2 weeks of hard work, we can finally heave a sigh of relief that our students accepted the framework that we are offering to them. So what is the Made for Learners framework? As mentioned by President Villamor, it's our emergency remote teaching system aimed at providing our interested and willing students. Basically, the table that we have created, the framework and the table that we have created is very similar to the tables that was presented last week during the guidelines of the flexible learning guidelines of CHED. No? We basically catered to the capability and the capacity of our students. So technically, we want students with only a smartphone and limited data to be able to enroll in our program. So let me show you a video of our Made for Learners framework. Okay, so what made Made for Learning work now? So we launched this for our summer program. We actually got 1,800 plus students. We started last April 29, and we just ended our summer program last week. So what particularly Made for Learners? What's the reason why this particular framework worked? A lot of reasons. First is we did market pre-assessment. We actually created surveys to test the readiness of our students. And out of 2,000 respondents, we are happy to note that 57% of them were willing to enroll in the summer term. And 71% of students have Wi-Fi connection and 61% have devices. So these students who were able to enroll in our program, we know that they can succeed because they were able to enroll using our online systems. Next, we also tested the readiness of our faculty members. More than 200 of them responded, and we're very happy that 93% have internet connection, 97% have laptops and other devices, and they have shown high confidence that they can deliver the materials in this particular framework. Second, and I think one of the most important thing is mind conditioning and communication, and we call this the first moment of truth. We have a very good marketing team. So immediately when we decided that we will do distance education, we started posting a lot of information, infographics about what distance learning, emergency remote teaching, and distance education is all about. In a way, this is our way of educating our students as well as their parents about the framework even before launching it. Second, we were very consistent with our branding. we were very lucky that we were able to make this acronym MADE, which we can use consistently as you have seen. Made for learners, made possible, made easy, made for learning, and so on. So our students get consistency and they know exactly what they're getting themselves into. Third, we made a lot of Made for Success tools. So one of the tools that we created is a student help kit. We wanted to make sure that the students understand it very well. We created an extensive FAQs so that they know what to expect when they start attending their classes. We even created a document guiding the students on how to manage their time, how to manage their data. Our Student Success Office in the Tatak Teknoy CIT page posted a lot of tips and advice to our students. And then we even posted videos that will help students understand how certain laboratories, for example, in engineering, will be delivered. So I have here an example video of that. So aside from the student help kit, we also created a faculty help kit. We made a lot of documents containing guidelines on how the faculty members will prepare their courses. We even created an ABCs for instructors, advising faculty members to be adaptable, to be flexible, and to be content ready. We created we launched a massive training program for teachers. Our institutional LMS is Moodle, and we train them not only on Moodle, but on a lot of other technical aspects as well as on how to survive in this particular mode of delivery. We also created a group for our faculty members so that they can share their practices, best practices, and tips for other faculty members to follow. And then we also created Made for Success tools. We charge miscellaneous fees. Our students did not actually like that very well, but we made sure that our students can access the services. So we created the Made to Serve platform where students can avail of counseling services. They can access library resources. We actually also made sure that for each of our class offerings, we have a librarian in charge, like serving like a teaching assistant, so that the students will know that they can always reach out to the library staff if they need help with materials. And then we also launched our e-consultation for the medical and dental clinic team. And then to help our students with the technical support needs, for example, if they have problems with accessing Moodle or forgot their passwords, they can always reach out to the technical support group. Now, fourth and very important is the quality assurance mechanisms. We wanted to make sure that the students will have the same experience and the teachers will basically have the same method of delivering the classes. So we created pre-planning class guide. We actually changed a lot of our forms and we created a lot of templates. We changed the process flows, even the evaluation tools, and so on. So we drafted templates for course locators and course guides. We created faculty classroom management and monitoring form so that we know what's happening in the classroom, if the students are still engaged, if the students have been submitting assignments. We wanted to make sure that no student will be left behind in the process. And then, of course, we did a lot of evaluation. The first evaluation that we did was on the first day. Just like in the launching of the Made for Learners in the CIT FB page, the first day of classes is also a stressful one for us because we wanted to make sure that students will be able to join their classes and meet their teachers. So we asked our students to post their first day experience. So here are some of the posts. It's a bit fun. Our students even wore their uniforms and took selfies. Some students posted their location when they were studying. It basically driving the point that in this mode of learning, the place does not matter, the time does not matter. For as long as you can access the materials and chat with your teachers, then you will be able to survive. And then we did a survey where we asked our students what they liked, what needs to be fixed, and what are the recommendations that they can give. And we are very happy that we had this very nice messages from the students that I will show you through this testimonial video.
About the summer class, it is a new experience.
This framework renewed my sense of productivity as a student and made distance education possible.
Made for Learners framework is less hassle and it can be accessed easily.
The teachers are making their ways as to keep us up with the lessons and videos that they are making.
CIT and our teachers, they have been very considerate, helpful, and approachable.
Learning is very accessible. In just a few clicks, I was able to access all the learning materials that my dedicated teachers provide me.
It is a new environment and a different way of learning, but it is still the way it is. Learning the Technologian way.
During the middle of the summer, we created a midterm assessment, and we're very happy again that our students rated their overall course delivery experience with a rating of 4.25, which is very satisfactory. And then the top 3 items are related to course content, which is very important for us. The course materials are relevant to the course class. It's great help. They are great help to learning, and they are aligned with the assessment task. Because we had a very short time parang converting all of the materials for this particular mode. No? So we're very happy that the students rated those high. But then the students are suggesting to limit video conferencing, and they should be given more time for submissions. These 2 areas are related to internet access. And then they actually would request for recorded videos of examples so that they can review them and watch them when their internet access is fast. Now, we also did the same thing for the faculty members. We asked for their feedback. Naturally, because these are the teachers, they rated very satisfactory with a rating of 4.43. And I'm very happy also to know that our faculty members recognize that one of the most challenging thing in this framework is the assessment. It's very difficult if you are giving assessment and the students are not really in front of you and you cannot monitor them. So we have to level up our assessment and target higher order thinking skills and give experiential assessments in general. And I think this is something that we need to work on. The teachers also requested for support on internet connection, Moodle training, our institutional LMS, and a lot of other technical training needs. And then we were able to receive these very nice comments from our faculty members that they are very thankful that CIT acted very fast and very swiftly, very decisively, that we were able to continue our operations using the Made for Learners framework. But we also took note of the concerns and the pain points of our students and our faculty members and created a new version of MADE, version 2.0, that we're gonna use for our special summer next week. So to end my talk, I would like to show you a video of the MADE version 2.
Thank you very much, Jerry. Just to close, the paradigm shift for me is that we could improve the future of education together. And we could do it faster than we thought. We are already behind in education globally, and this pandemic is an opportunity for us to reflect, to focus, and to gain momentum. We did more improvements than we could impact that could impact the future of education in the last 3 months than we ever thought. So this is not just about speed, but this is for the long haul. This is like a marathon. We have to be fast to adjust in delivering quality education in the new context. Technology will improve, connectivity will be better, but we can only maximize this through our people and our culture. So face the challenge, do it, learn, then promote and share it with us. And we will experience complex problem solving, negotiation, creativity, communication, and all those top soft skills that the future generation needs to be prepared to drive our economy. When more and more people see that it can be done effectively, when we all do it, the paradigm shift will happen in the minds of our community. Then be your best critic and continually ask, so what? Now what? Then what? Thank you very much. Back to you, Omni.
Thank you very much, Engineer Bernard Villamor and Dr. Cherilyn Santa Romana. So, I really admire the way CIT has maximized the use of technology in making sure that our students and teachers are enabled for distance learning. So, I personally admire the Made for Learn framework and how it is well thought of and well executed. And I think we can eventually learn from you later during the Q&A on how we can replicate the success story of your Made for Learn framework to other universities as well. So thank you so also to Dr. Cherilyn Santa Romana, the Dean of the Technical Committee for Computer Science of the Commission on Higher Education for the past 10 years. So thank you very much for sharing your insights on Made for Learn. And at this point, if you have any questions and suggestions, feel free to key them in through the chat box, and we will address them during the Q&A segment at the end of this session or towards the end of this session. And at this point, I'd like to introduce our third speaker. He is the Vice President of Academics, Administration, and Institutional Development of PwC Davao. He is the President of the Association of Private and State Colleges and Universities of Region 11, APSCR 11, an incoming president of the Davao Colleges and Universities Network, DACUN. He was educated in the United States with undergraduate degrees in computer science and psychology, human relations major, and graduated magna cum laude. He earned his terminal degree in telecommunications management from Pace University in a joint program with IBM and Courant Institute of Mathematical Sciences in New York City. Let's all welcome on screen Professor Vicente Antonio Pijano III to give us insights on switching the learning modality.
Good morning, everyone. Before I go to my formal talk, I'd like to first give you a little bit of a background. What we are doing now in PwC of Davao is basically something that I had started working on some 15 or so years ago, being a consultant in international development cooperation in many parts of the world as part of the team coming from the Delft University of Technology and also several of the universities in Sweden in projects funded by the European Union and also by the Dutch and Swedish government. In those experience, it was basically a international development cooperation project, primarily in the setting up of academic institutions to improve the quality of education in a lot of the different developing countries in the world. In the course of the last decade and a half, I've worked in many countries, but more notably in Yemen, Mozambique, and Tanzania as well. In particular, the project in Yemen has been the most useful in being able to set up a system of education that wherein the Dutch government had given a 5 million euro project to the Republic of Yemen to develop two master's program in computer science and management, and which is more of ICT, and engineering and management. So we had to build from ground up not only the curriculum, but also the systems and the institution that will support that out of the University of Taiz, which was the manufacturing base of the Republic of Yemen. It was a 5-year project. Um, the beauty of the project is that it allowed us to get as many people we needed from all over the world. And we also had some very good industrial partners, which were the Hal Said Group. So in the end, in the heart of the project, it was a curriculum development project. We developed the programs, and it was designed for the first 5 years to be able to offer it on a face-to-face modality. However, after the second year of operation, where most of the funds have already been depleted because of the development of the curriculum, bringing in the experts, the faculty development component for the other 18 universities in the Republic of Yemen, uh, the trouble started when quite a number of uncertainties started to come up, wherein leading to what we now call as the civil war in Yemen. We were already offering the courses face to face for 2 years. We had a total of about 28 teachers coming from 9 countries all over the world. Of the 28, we had about 18 that were Filipinos that I had recruited, coming
Yeah.
from the best and the
Hindi ako,
brightest in the Philippines.
Amen.
We had also 8 other
yeah,
countries represented.
hindi ako nakakita niyan.
At that time,
Yeah.
um, it was suddenly we were left with the problem that we could not bring people back to the country anymore because of the uncertainty of the safety of the individuals. So it was decided at that time we only had about 20% of our budget left behind. So we came up with a solution: why not convert the two programs in an online mode? So hence we started in what we now call the Herculean task of being able to convert a face-to-face modality into a fully online system. What we discovered in that experience, we barely had 6 weeks to be able to do that then. But I had no problem because I had with me originally the 18 Filipinos who were willing to convert the content. I had asked a well-known Filipino engineer educator, Dr. Peter Oreta, to be one of the team leaders from the very beginning. And Tito Peter was really instrumental in trying to get the best people from the engineering, and I used my own contacts in the IT world to be able to also get the people to effectively convert the content. So from the original 18, we grew to another 24, but this time, all Filipinos that actually converted the content. Based on our experience, taking a traditional face-to-face curriculum and just putting it online does not work for many factors. One of which is that the coverage is too wide. There are many aspects on a face-to-face contact that you would not be able to see in terms of online. So the very first thing that we actually did was to actually simplify and modify the content that we had originally developed. So what I'm going to show you today is what we have done now in women's. In the last 2.5 years, I have decided, because of also my children are all growing, so that I would now be based here as opposed to be traveling all over the world. No, only to realize that it has been a full circle for me, that everything that I have learned outside are now being come to be tested and to be used in the Philippine context. So I'm so pleased to be able to share with all of you actually the labor of what we have done, all the people that we've worked in the last many years. No? So in the context of PwC, our implementation of the flexible learning methodology is what we call the PwC Digital Learning Commons. And in the heart of that whole process is actually, it is a curriculum development project. No? So I'll share with you what we did to be able to get to the point. This is a continuing story now. We're still in the middle of the process of our curriculum development as we speak, but I wanted to show you what were the steps that we undertook from the learnings that we've had in our other projects abroad that we know work, and that's what we are implementing here. So, the main rationale for our digital learning commons is that in times of crisis, we needed to adapt, to innovate, and to embrace change to survive. In the heart of the curriculum development process is that it must be a change process itself. There were two main principles that we put into it. The first one is we needed to reimagine education. The other one is to be able to recast education. As educators, we are very much aware that the landscape in education is changing very much. So much so that it allows us to be able to reshape curriculum, to redesign courses, delivery methods, all the way to the remodeling of student support services. We've all witnessed and experienced the significant changes over the years. And yet today, we are moving in much faster pace. We need to reimagine or to form new concepts or to recreate something that is more appropriate for the needs of our students, especially in the time of the pandemic. In PwC, it was not hard to be able to do that because for many years, for over a decade and a half, it had an institutional motto, which is innovation is our tradition. So all I needed to do was to actually rekindle that fire, to insist on people that we have, that dapat, sabi ko nga, ay tayo magpakatotoo, no, sa ating sinasabi na we are innovators. So I challenge the faculty both at the tertiary level and at the basic education level that we have to become true to our mission, which is we are innovators at heart. With that being said, the second most important concept or principle is the recasting of education. In order to recast education, we needed to be able to take a concept and then melt it down and then reshape it so that it can become more responsive, more meaningful, more insightful, more relevant to the needs of the learners and trainees. I'd like to point out two important terminologies. When we view students this time and in this age, we must view them as learners and trainees, especially in the case of PwC, where we have a big portion of our population are those coming from the diploma program, which are skills-based approach. No? So even the treatment of the type of training we provide them has to be appropriate to the needs of the students. Secondly, what did we ask them to do? First, I asked them to have an open mind and open heart. Because even if the heart was willing, even if the mind was willing and the heart was not open, they will not be able to embrace the change that is coming. That they must be willing to learn anew. Third is that they must embrace the change. Fourth, and most importantly, accept the challenge of the activity that needs to be done. And last but not least, the most important is they must work hard. Now, in the context of PwC, in the heart of our implementation of the flexible learning process, the most important part is that we needed to brand it, and we branded it as our PwC Digital Learning Commons. Now, it was not just as easy as the Learning Commons. We needed to create a message that were appropriate to the people that we were servicing. And namely, those were the people, those were our students and our trainees, no? And in the context of that, we also created what we call the PWC Oxygen. Oxygen because it breathes and breeds to our virtual learning uh, activity, which is our PWC Learning Commons. It takes into account the new generations of learners, which had to be experiencing fun, interactive, and safe at the same time in a digitally simulated classroom experience. We created those for them, and we wanted them to be able to address those and use what we have prepared for them. We offer those in two modes: online instruction, offline instruction, and also being able to download and pre-print course packs or sticks, because there are about 15% of our students do not have access to the internet because they are living in the far-flung areas and barangays of the Davao region. So we would be able to give them also specific materials that they can take home. Now, what is most important? What were the general objectives of these things? We needed to provide alternative to the delivery of knowledge and learning through online platform by creating a different experience for the students. We needed to find feasible solutions in ways to mitigate COVID-19 in terms of student learning and uncertainty brought about by the lockdown. What I had told my people basically was that we needed to rethink through a problem with a clean slate, no, with a table that was empty, and revisit everything. Forget about the context, the experiences that we've had in the past, because those no longer apply. So, what did we do by embracing the change? We created what we call the Flexible Learning Task Force that really crafted our policies, procedures, and practices in implementing the Digital Learning Commons. Here are the organizational structures. It's a bit complex, but it needed to be like that because this is a very serious matter. We needed to create a committee that consisted different representatives from the tertiary education and the basic education. PWC, in terms of population, there are over 5,600 of ours of students in those two different units. We created learning development teams based on discipline that consisted what we call PWC, DLC champions. These are people who had embraced technology, and you will be surprised that they are both young faculty and people who are actually quite not so young anymore, but were willing to actually take the challenge. We had identified two anchors or two champions in each of the discipline that we were offering. Another team that was created is the quality assurance team, which is actually the team that actually reviews the specific output of everyone in terms of their work, in terms of their activity, and everything else. And then the other team is the ICT team, and also the publication and the editing team. So it's a really a big activity. Then for publication and editing, we have decided to outsource it because it's a lot faster to do it, especially if you have people who are content experts who can really do the editing. No, here are the process of approval and the function. It goes to the program cluster heads, then the faculty, the learning development team, the editing team, the quality assurance team, and the ICT team. So it's a step-by-step process that they undergo the whole process. Now, what were the quality statements that we have? First is that the quality standards in doing each output is that to make sure that they produce good quality work that is based on the expected learning outcomes and the essential core competencies. Number two is that plagiarism is not allowed. Number three is that proper paraphrasing and correct citations is cited. Four, and the most important, is the contextualization of content in making the work plans, the modules, and the exercises and activities. We wanted to make sure that it still captures our mission vision, everything that we were doing before in the face-to-face modality. Then what did we actually do? Here are the activities. The faculty members were tasked to make the courseware consisting of the PwC Global Setup Plan, the learning plans, which are our modules, the PowerPoint presentations, the activities or output per topic or module. 5 is the learning assessment per topic and per module. Number 6, pre and post testing. Two important points. In order for the conversion from face-to-face to online to work, there has to be a pre and post testing facility to in order to determine the teachers who are teaching the course where the students are coming up before every start of every course. Post testing is important because in line of being able to implement a good evaluative criteria for grading and assessment, you need to be able to see that the student has actually moved up in their learning. Another important point, in each module, because you convert it based on the total number of courses, of content, no, in terms of lectures and meetings, there has to be an activity or an output for every meeting. Kasi pag hindi nyo ginawa yun, paano nyo malalaman na naiintindihan ng mga bata yung dapat nilang intindihan? You cannot see them, you know? And so what you will have to do is to create higher level activities that require thinking and output in order for you to be effectively be able to measure their success, no? Now, here are the global setup plan, which is really in the heart of our process, no? This is a work plan similar to a course outline or a course syllabus following an agreed format. This is written in MS Word and uses the appropriate names of files for the sake of consistency. I'd like to show you a sample of that. These are the contents, no? The name of the program, course code, credits, references, the particular institutional learning outcomes, PLOs, CLOs. In fact, we have CHED to thank because they were insisting that we implement outcomes-based education. And so 4 years ago, we already started in implementing the learning outcomes approach as our OBE. This is the sample now of what you will consider as our global setup plan. It is basically a work plan. It defines all the activities and the modules that will be designed. Of course, this is a vacant one, but it tells you the type of quizzes, the type of participation and everything, even the grading. It defines the topics, no? And then there is a planning and milestone deliverable as part of the output, where the teachers, this becomes our contract between the school and the teacher as they are developing. So we know exactly, typically, it takes about 2 weeks to actually recast, no, the current offering, the current courses that they've been teaching for a long time and convert it into the online mode. But the basic premise for it is they have to simplify, actually modify the course content that has been prepared, that they've been teaching before. Only look at the essential learnings that are needed to meet the competencies and the outputs and the outcomes that are required for the very important activity of that course. So you have to really simplify it, and that is the most difficult process. Kasi if you've been teaching the course for a long time, in order to look at it, the parameters that we give them is that you have to identify, based on the outcomes mapping that you've done, what are the essential learning that needs to be met in that course. So all the activities, even the pre and the post-testing activities that you are conducting, has to target those essential learning and the competencies that you are building. So now, that's what we have in the global setup plan. President Carol asked me to also put some 2 slides, no? Because, you know, I am a technical person. A lot of the schools kasi are having specific problems in terms of the bandwidth requirement, no? So what happened is that this is the standard format we are using with our ICT group, no, to determine the total internet bandwidth that is needed to be able to determine if your LMS is actually working. So is to be able to take the data size, no, the size of the application that is being used or being accessed in the network within the school, and then the number of users. For example, this is the formula that we're using in PwC. Typically, in the internal network, we're using 300 kbps bits per second. and then the total number of is 5,000 at any single point in time. So we are needing a bandwidth of 1.5. By practice, what you normally would do at any given point in time, what we suggest technically is you get 3 or 4 times higher than what is the requirement that you have in school. No, so if you are coming out in your studies of like 2 gigabits, so you will get at least 8 gigabits, no, in terms of the pipeline that you would need to acquire for the school. And normally better to get it in multiple chunks of activities, in chunks of pipelines coming in, so that you can really target on how the bandwidth is distributed. There is another formula that we use that I'd like to share with you. And this is the base now on the specific users and the type of uses that they are using. It uses the formula of the total bandwidth needed, concurrent devices, users, and the size of data. But this time, we graded in terms of three different categories. The first one, low, meaning if you're just using fax machines, voice over IP telephones, or just voice, no, uh, for email and simple web surfing without video. Medium would be 100 to 500 kpbs, where you're using extensive web browsing, streaming, emailing, and also downloading. And the high level would be half a gig to up to 2 megabits per second. These are the cloud-based platforms, software programs such as enrollment system, point of sale, finance, HR, and campus automation. So if you look at it, nagbabago ng kaunti doon. No? You can cut down based on the number of uses in terms of how they are actually using it as a standard formula. It is a kind of a rationing of what is actually needed. Most of us, if we are using a cloud-based learning management system, no, a platform, itong LMS platform, you would have to categorize it under the high level. If there are more interest in this, now we can probably ask Paku to have a separate workshop specifically to be able to define ano ba yung requirements, yung proper computation, so that your IT groups are able to really prepare for the offering all of this LMS in the time to come, no, come August. So let me go back now to the curriculum development portion of it. Some before I close, no. What is important is the realization to convert the face-to-face modality into online without really reimagining and recasting, without putting in a system of a certain level of organization, without a system of quality assurance, without putting in a system of checks and balances, is bound to fail. Because you cannot take a face-to-face modality and just convert it into e-learning. You need to retweak it. You need to reimagine it, because e-learning is just a tool. It doesn't replace a good teacher. Teacher can be guided by being that teacher, be guided by being able to reimagine and recast what they have been teaching and what they have been doing for 10 years, for 20 years in a new modality. It is that appreciation, it is embracing that idea of change that actually propel your teachers to become really more of motivators, to become more of a guide rather than instructor that are just, they are the main source of information. It will allow them to make the learning more palatable for your students to adapt. And more importantly, from my experience, in my Yemen experience and all that, it allows our teachers to be more compassionate and more malleable, because it allows them to adapt to their learners who are more advanced in these things. But we have to make sure that our teachers embrace the technology and sees the technology as their tool to be able to move forward. So in my message in the college, I told them, no, in this whole process of curriculum development, is that everyone must be the change that you wish to see in the world, because this whole process is really a change process. It entails a change of attitude, a change of mindset, and a change of how we used to do things. With that being said, good morning, and I hope we were able to partake some of the experiences that we've done in the last 15 years or so. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you very much, Professor Vicente Antonio Pijano III. What a very nice presentation. I personally like the way you use the word reimagine. And I agree with you when you said that e-learning is just a tool and it can never replace a good teacher. So we are so happy to hear about that and to be inspired by your presentation, Professor Vicente. And of course, we will learn from you more at the latter part of this session. Thank you very much once again. And at this moment, I'd like to introduce our fourth speaker. Okay, so our next speaker used to be the head of the corporate sales team in Smart Communications from 2000 to 2009. He has led the regional enterprise team of Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, managing more than 7,000 customers. Currently, he heads the FMCG, Pharma, Transportation, and Logistics team with 6,000 customers of PLDT Enterprise. To share with us some insights on the academic industry as well as technology solutions this industry can cope with the new normal, or this industry can use to cope with the new normal, please help me welcome Corporate Relationship Management Head of PLDT Enterprise, Mr. Dick Perez. Good morning, boss.
Good morning, Omni, and thank you for the wonderful introduction. Okay, a pleasant day to everyone. And first of all, I would like to thank Paku for the partnership. And also, I'd like to congratulate the panelists for an excellent presentation. Truly up to the current situation we are in. Before I start my presentation, please allow me to show you a simple video to honor our students and teachers. It takes 200 plus teachers to take us to our dreams. This is the driving force why PLDT came up with educational solutions to help our learners and teachers cope up during the COVID-19 pandemic. We are very honored for the opportunity to help the Academe during this crisis. Truly, this crisis creates an unimaginable impact globally, especially in the Philippines. The education sector is one of the worst affected that disrupted the learning and well-being of our students. Our main objective is to make online learning more accessible to every Filipino nationwide. This is the new role of technology in transforming education. Together, we can learn as one. But before we can even learn as one, let us understand our current situation and how it impacted everyone. This morning, I will briefly show you the global education landscape, just to set the discussion, and of course, a glimpse of the Philippine education landscape. I will be discussing the needed technology to make online learning a success with a solution framework for the schools. And critical to the success of online learning is to be able to reach the unconnected teachers and students. And finally, touching on a complete end-to-end online learning solution. According to UNESCO, global school closures are heavily affecting over 90% of the world's student population. In the Philippines alone, According to DepEd and PSA data, there are 32 million students and close to 1.2 million teachers that are affected by the COVID-19 lockdown. All of them will need access to online learning. The information and content will have to be accessed by every student in their homes, and it will be facilitated by the teachers in their homes as well. This will make our classroom the biggest classroom in the world. COVID-19 impacts every aspect of the educational organization. On teaching and learning, most students have completed the current semester online, or for some, mass promotion and auto passing. Some of the class of 2020 have graduated online, but without a formal ceremony. It will be remembered in history as the first mass online graduation. On student enrollment, equity, and experience, institutions with limited or no online learning experience will be affected. This will be a battle between schools who can deliver the best online curriculum. In terms of equity, lower income students will disproportionately suffer due to the absence or lack of resources. On faculty and staff, the big shift to online learning is already stretching resources, including workforce. The faculty with little or no experience on teaching in this environment will struggle and will be on a disadvantage. On infrastructure, the sudden shift to online learning is already stretching the school's existing technology resources. IT infrastructure will need to be upgraded. It must also include integration of new learning software and tools to maintain teaching standards as courses move online. On finance, since a lot of jobs are at stake, companies will downsize or even close down. Retrenched parents will have to tighten their belts. The option is to enroll their children to a more affordable school. Or worse, their children's education will take a backseat. So, what can colleges and universities do? There is a need to break the strategy in phases. Activities will need to be prioritized. On the immediate term, the right infrastructure must be set up. The focus is keeping the education lights on by providing teachers with a platform for continuous interaction with the students. And this is why connectivity, collaboration tools, and cloud-based systems are much needed. On the near term or transition to normalcy, the school will need to focus on the students' and faculty's overall well-being and experience. Schools then need to stabilize the education system that are in place. Creative ways on improving current program must be done at the least possible cost. The winner will be the school who can deliver a superior educational content with the best value for money. Medium term, or what is commonly called the new norm, schools should focus on enrollment, finance, and operations. Schools will need to provide online payment facilities to keep the revenue and cash flow healthy. For the long term, there should be focus on continuous improvement. Schools must re-engineer the entire process using technology as a means to automate and simplify current processes. From enrollment to delivering the final grade, it must be done online. It must be available with very little or ideally no physical interface required from parents and students. Adapting to the changing landscape is part of the 2020 digital initiative, according to the BCG article. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit us, many were caught off guard. Although some colleges and universities were able to adapt quickly. And these are the ones who embraced online learning even before the pandemic. The new norm will require a different mindset and approach in educating students. It is recommended that the schools follow the list method. First is to listen intently to our students and faculty. Schools must need to regularly hear them to determine how they are coping up with the new norm. Second is to execute initiatives that will provide better experience to all affected students and faculty. Third is to aim for success. There will be failures, and that's understandable, but it's part of the journey to success if we will learn from them. The fourth is to practice continuous transformation and always be ready to adapt to the ever changing landscape. Given this, the school must embark on a digital transformation to effectively respond to any crisis. I would like to show you an example of a solution framework that the school can follow as they embark on their digital transformation. Everything must ideally be automated and available online for the students, the teachers, and staff. From recruitment and admissions, finance, enrollment, HR systems, academic and collaboration, health management, and so on. And this includes business intelligence and analytics so that the school officials will be armed for a sound decision making. Schools must have the right facility to bring information into every student's home. For a more efficient learning environment, the data must reside here in the Philippines. As of now, most of the LMS providers are hosted outside the Philippines, which constrains and impact international data traffic. With the help from the school administrators, we should convince and encourage LMS and educational content providers to relocate here in the Philippines. By doing this, we can make education more accessible and inclusive, providing quality education to every sector, from private to public schools. We all know that connectivity is an integral part of online learning. It must, however, include other components to make it easier for the schools to implement. To further illustrate, please allow me to highlight some key areas needed for an effective online ecosystem. And this we will do with the help of iLearn with PLDT solutions. From access to online learning with wireless and fixed broadband connection, Wi-Fi, and centralized school subsidized load facility for teachers and students, to improving collaboration with our partnership with Microsoft, to providing a platform for e-campus, LMS, and content to securely reach students and faculty, and also making operation more efficient, especially at the most difficult time with ERP or enterprise resource planning, to digitalization technology, and even in terms of providing students and faculty with a 24 by 7 managed help desk. On top of this, it will be protected by a state-of-the-art in-country cloud-based cybersecurity system. These are the solutions that we can deliver to the schools. While some are fortunate to have the resources needed for online learning, there are some who are not, and we need to provide options to reach the unconnected. Let's try to promote Ishak education. Ishak means to laugh or to give joy. Let us make education more fun, inclusive, sustainable, and accessible with the highest quality. How do we make Ishak education possible? Our key to success will be different from the past. We need to welcome the new normal to thrive in 2020 and post-COVID, and that is going to be our day zero. We should provide schools with solutions for the students and faculty who does not have internet connectivity in their residences. The solution must have the capability to work online and offline. Our mission, 100% secured, accessible, and inclusive learning. In partnership with Microsoft and PLDT, we bring you the Microsoft All-in-One e-learning solution for the Academe. The Microsoft All-in-One e-learning solution for the Academe is a suite of educational tools designed to drive student and teacher engagements, focusing on continuous learning both within and outside the classroom. If we can provide these solutions to each and every student and teacher, we can make our homes the biggest classroom in the world. We can help in bringing the right information closer, anytime, anywhere. No student will be left behind. To further reach the unconnected, we are exploring with DepEd for a possible partnership with TV5 and Signal as a means to deliver the learning content to our public school students who are in the far-flung areas. And we have been practicing blended learning since 2016 with our Smart School in a Bag CSR program. Continuous learning will be a reality, and we should all partner together to make it happen. This crisis shows the positivity of every Filipino to do bayanihan, just as what Filipino people are known for. At this point, please allow me to show you a short clip. Imagine if we can empower the student of today to create the better world of tomorrow.
Imagine if you could empower the students of today to create the world of tomorrow. Harness the power of technology to bring what once seemed impossible into reach.
I believe all children want to learn. It's just a matter of the adults trying to find an avenue or a vehicle to get them to that place.
Technology is transforming the classroom, and it's changing the way we teach, learn, connect.
Hello.
Imagine if the most important parts of your school were connected. Students, teachers, and classrooms, empowering everyone to create, to collaborate, to achieve more. From meeting the diverse needs of all students, to improving graduation rates and efficiently managing your schools.
We had a graduation rate of 55%, which is shameful. And through this tracking and relentless use of data, I announced last month that it's at 82.6%. That is remarkable.
Introducing Microsoft 365 Education, designed to empower educators and students to unlock their creativity, to easily connect and work together in and out of the classroom, to make it easier to deploy and manage affordable classroom devices, and to provide always-on security to help keep your school's data safe. Simple changes can ignite transformation. You know what works, so let us help you build on it. This is Microsoft 365 Education. Together, we can embrace what's next.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dick Perez, for showing us your presentation and for informing us on what available technologies there are for our teachers and students to maximize, to enable themselves on distance learning. And at this point, I'd like to call back all our previous speakers, Dr. Caroline Enriquez, Engineer Bernard, and Dr. Cherry, and Professor Vicente for our Q&A. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to proceed with the Q&A already. So, first and foremost, thank you very much for sharing your wonderful insights on how we can all cope with this pandemic situation. And for the first question, we'd like to address it to Dr. Caroline Enriquez. And this question is, what is the long-term impact of this pandemic to education? And what government support are we expecting for schools, especially teachers or staff and students?
Hi, thank you. How do you say it? What is the long-term effect? Nobody really knows what the long-term effect will be, but definitely it will entail a lot of rethinking on the part of educational institutions For one, long-term effect, there will be a definitively impact on our resources. How many of our students are willing to come back? And how much resources do we have left to pay off our teachers, our utilities, and everything else? So in terms of financial impact, if we're not able to get our students in, if we're not able to con- conduct online learnings or flexible learnings, then it could be, in the long run, very negative for most of the educational institutions. With regards government support, we're still working with IATF. We're working with JET and DepEd to provide some sort of assistance. Everything is very fluid. There's a government arm that says, yes, we can help you. But we realize that funding is also an issue on a national level. So that being said, we hope and pray that eventually we get our funding from the government, we get our support from the government, and also our students will come back to school, whether it's online or flexible learning.
Thank you very much for sharing your insights, Dr. Caroline. And yes, it is really important that we get the support of the government in making sure that distance learning is enabled, especially during this time of pandemic and moving forward. So I think this is going to be a practice for a long-term new normal experience, not just for the students and teachers, but to everyone, including the parents who are assisting their kids. So this is a question for Mr. Dick Perez. Okay, so given this pandemic, how can technology support the new era of academia in delivering quality education to the learners as we bring the classroom or the new classroom into the home?
Right. So, well, as I've said, well, connectivity is going to be an integral part of the solution for LMS. And one of the things that we need to do really is to provide the students with a good experience in accessing the various learning management systems. So what we really wanted to achieve is to partner with the different LMS and to bring them here in the Philippines. Because right now, the different LMS or the learning management systems like Blackboard, Canvas, Moodle, they are hosted outside the country. So if a student wants to access the LMS, the data traffic goes international. And this creates a strain in the international traffic data. And in terms of distance, you can imagine that in terms of latency, it's going to be longer, it's going to be high. Whereas if they have, let's say, servers here, or they will subscribe or enroll into our cloud service in the Philippines, then if we will do that, then we will make the international traffic or the data traffic local. So you can just imagine that any student who accesses the LMS is just accessing the LMS within the Philippines. So all the whatever connectivity you have, whether wireless or fixed or fiber, then the experience will be a lot better if they're hosted here in the country.
Thank you, Sir Dick, for sharing that. And yes, I agree. So it will be a collaboration, not just with the telco, but also all the enablers of this distance learning environment that we have, including the
Right.
LMS providers. Okay, so I'd like to refer this question, but before to Engineer Bernard and Dr. Cherry. But before I mention the question, I'd like to share here a comment from Joyce Samaniego, Executive Director of PACU. It is said that disruption births opportunity. Hats off to CITU for embracing the future of education and sharing how it looks like with the participants of this webinar. So thank you on behalf of PACU and PLDT, Engineer Bernard and Dr. Cherry, for sharing with us your Made for Learn framework. And because of that, I'd like to also share this question to you. So can you offer further guidance on how schools can help meet students' academic need? And also, what were the challenges in the academic industry that you faced or are currently facing as the government issued the ECQ? So what were the effect of school administrators, faculty members, and students or parents? And I think you can also share with us the challenges you encountered while you were still trying to implement your Made for Learn framework?
Yeah, maybe Chair would like to jump in.
So I think the main challenge is basically on the teacher training, just like what Professor Pihano said. No, we have to make sure that all of the teachers will be at the same page, and so we had to do it very fast by creating a lot of guidelines, and then we had to make sure that the problem is like what Professor Pihano said is that when you transition from a classroom setting to online, it's just not a matter of changing the classroom. It's not just, for example, meeting your students in a classroom and then suddenly you're meeting them online. That is not the case. Otherwise, the students will be overwhelmed. It will be so tiring for them, and we don't have really stable internet access all the time. So it's a change in mindset. We have to make sure that we explain that to the teachers, that it's just a transition from classroom to online. It's a matter of changing everything, no? The way that you deliver the materials, the way that you package them so that they can easily be swallowed. No, you just don't put all of the materials together, even to the point of telling the faculty members that you have to divide it into weekly chunks and make sure the assessments are done weekly. So we had to do all of those things very, very fast because we cannot go to school. Right now, Cebu City is back to ECQ. We have already planned, to set up everything and go back to at least partial operations in CIT, but now we're back to ECQ. So we're doing everything online. It's good that before we had the ECQ, we were able to transition the operations, like the enrollment system. We transitioned that online. It's not perfect. We're still.
I think Cherry
Dr.
got cut.
Cherry?
Yeah, let me
Yes.
just add to that while she's reconnecting. Aside from the challenges, it's really looking at discovering new opportunities. So as I attended another webinar from the USAID Stride, I realized that our student success pathing, our framework was weak. And as all of us have been leveled off, the USAID is teaching, helped other schools set up their career centers using the traditional way, but they are also promoting a new framework. And so that's something, an opportunity that we should do in parallel. All of us should do in parallel. That it's not just about the let's assume that LMS, everything, connectivity will be there. So what is next? Now what? Then when we all have the connectivity, we have to work on strengthening. How can we make a fresh? Let's talk about higher education. The success path, aside from the academic side, how can we embed those soft skills? The same skills that we need to address this, like I mentioned, complex problem solving. So partnerships with telco, partnerships with the banks, with the government. So reimagining using our tools that we teach, like design thinking. So a good problem statement in defining the problem is, like as highlighted by Sir Perez, how might we make education not take the back seat? That can be by financial aid. Maybe government will consider, what if all students are all scholars of government, maybe just for a year, so everyone doesn't worry about how to fund their connectivity, how to fund their tuition. So lesser, right now government is giving free education, so when does that return? If you just make it an aid, maybe a pay later or pay after 5 years, there's still a return rather than nothing. So that's just my 2 cents, and that, I'm sure that has to go to different ears, and that's a challenge. But we all imagine if that is available, then we won't have to worry about enrollment. We'll just have to worry about how to make our systems better, and I'm sure that will come with all of us here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Villamor. And yes, I do agree with all the points you shared. And because of that, I think another question here from Kathleen Angeles, one of our viewers, is also relevant to what you shared a while ago. So the question is, can Professor Pijano and Dr. Cherry Roman please share how quality assurance is done at your respective institutions? Do you use a certain framework? Can you please share steps we may entail in ensuring quality in curriculum and connectivity despite of the modalities, distance, blended, asynchronous, modular?
Okay. Thank you for the question, Omni. Well, first of all, there are multi layers, no, of how quality assurance can be maintained. First and foremost is the template by which you create the basis of evaluation. In the case of the model that we are using and that we've been using for a long time, it is based on what we call the global setup plan. Because the global setup plan defines the parameter of how the traditional curricular design is going to be retweaked, simplified, and to be distributed and to be cut into chunks of learnings, no? So the process there is to create the framework, which is in our case that is what we call the global setup plan. Basically, it is a conglomeration of what you would call our syllabus plan before, or learning plan, but also more importantly a kind of a work plan. So that is the first step. The second step is engaging the typical supervisory functions within the academic institution, wherein, for example, you have a group of chairs reviewing the output of what the teachers have produced. That is the first layer of quality assurance, content wise, and also in terms of relevance of content. No, second level would be at the level of the deans, or what we call is the quality assurance team, where it composed our most seasoned faculty and also administrators that actually reviews the output of what was stated in the global setup plan. It is those group of people that evaluates if what has been prepared addresses the particular questions. There is a key alignment. The alignment of content of what is being given at the level of the materials and what is being evaluated, no? Because for every content you must have the appropriate evaluation. That is where we can come up, for example, for introductory level courses, you can still have multiple types of questions, you can have enumerations, but wag naman pagdating na dun sa major subjects on the third year, eh puro multiple choice pa rin. Dapat doon meron ng deep thinking or activity na gagawin niya, that they actually have to do something, no, in terms of projects, in terms of reflection paper, in terms of activities. In fact, the feedback that I have received from our teachers through the years, sabi niya, "Sir, sa umpisa pala mahirap itong gawin. Pero pag naayos mo na, nalatag mo na, mas madali siya." Kasi one of the what the global setup plan will do is to actually limit the parameters of how the course is supposed to be offered. No, it will be a different conversation in terms of the modality of how you can do the offering in terms of block sessions and all that, because even that traditional offering of an 18 weeks would have to be revisited in order for it to work, eh. Because here you have to have blocks of times, chunks of time, that you can really be able to get as much deepening of the knowledge and skills that are required to be able to be attributed to the learning of the students. So yung fourth level of the quality assurance is actually making sure that in the actual conduct of the classes, you will have to have, I call them kind of parang QA inspectors, no? Pero it's not the right term. It's more of mentors that will have to log in when the teachers are logged on to make sure to supervise what was happening. In the Yemen context, every course that we've offered, and we ran the online for 3.5 years, we always had somebody who was a senior administrator of the group, no, actually sitting in and observing in the online sessions. So ganun yung multiple level of quality assurance. But what is important is that to create the framework by which you allow people to be innovative, not to stifle, but to be innovative. So I hope it answers your question.
Thank you very much for sharing, Professor Pijano. And I think that also goes to Gabriel Archimedes Flores, who also asked about simplifying the content. So at this point, I'd like to, I think some of our guests are asking naman on the implementation side. So Olivia Limhuko, one of our viewers, is asking, can PLDT give an assurance of fast connectivity for our students and faculty by August, when most classes will start. Please provide an affordable student package. And also, I think we have a similar question from Genevieve Gabule. How do we connect the students if it is on their that they will be having problems for internet connectivity? Based on experience, a number of my students has difficulties in the connectivity since they live in remote areas. I think this question is for Mr. Dick Terrence.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Omni. Well, realizing that we are in a different time, this is a crisis, and connectivity is really a much needed solution right now. So in PLDT, I cannot speak in behalf of the other telcos, but for PLDT, we are throwing in 60 billion, a budget of 60 billion, to enhance and to do more rollout um, for our base stations and including our fiber facilities. Um, while we have encountered some difficulty in terms of doing our rollout because of the ECQ, we were able to manage to deliver some of connectivity to the other areas that doesn't have connectivity before, and we will continue to do that. Now, another solution that we are recommending to the schools is that specifically for those schools whose areas are, well, are not really in the far flung, but the areas where there's limited internet connectivity or connection. We are suggesting to them, especially for those who are going to do blended learning, they must choose an LMS that can work both online and offline. All right, for example, you have Microsoft or MS Education, right? So it's a complete suite of educational applications, from office applications to let's say collaboration tools. Now, what you can do is that if you are subscribed to the A3 license, the A3 license will allow you to work both online and offline. So in those days that the students are scheduled to attend classes, then then they can download or all the materials, the assignments, the research work, and then go home, work on it offline, right? And then once it's their turn to go back to school, they're scheduled to go back to school, then they can upload it again. So in that way, they can still work and they can still catch up with the needed schoolwork. Now, for the third question, which is, can you, what's that, Omni? Can you offer available plans or affordable
Yes, sir.
plans? Yes, we did. As a matter of fact, what we did was to design and create a wireless plan specifically for the academe. So this type of plan will provide you. You have for instance, a certain plan, like for instance 500. We will provide you, let's say, with an 8 gigabytes of open access data, so you can go to any site that you want. And then on top of that, we will give you a daily allowance, right? Which you can access specifically the learning applications like LMS, Wikipedia, Microsoft, and the other learning applications. So that is the plans that we have designed. And if your school is interested, please just reach out to us, and we'll gladly present this to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sir Dick. So while we're waiting for more questions to be posted, I'd like to share with you some comments that I'm getting also from our chat box. So Rosemary C. Santos says, thank you for the fruitful webinar. I gained lots of information, techniques, teaching style about distance learning. From Dr. Rosemary C. Santos of National Science Department, or NatSci Department of Olfu. And we also have similar comments from Alain Goles. So thank you for this webinar. It was very informative and useful for our organization. So also Romeo Minosa, thank you for this very informative webinar. Ayan. So also lastly, from Kathleen Angeles, thank you po Professor Pijano. We'll read more on the global setup plan. So I think our viewers are currently engaged, and I think there are a lot of thankful thoughts on the current insights shared during this webinar. So for those of you who were not able to catch up on the first parts of the webinar, don't worry because a recorded version of this will be shared to you by Paku. Okay, so at this moment, I think we're still gathering some more questions. Here's one from Ronald Herminihindo. Okay, in enhancing the connectivity, is there any health effects to the users, the student, or instructors in terms of high radiation? I think anyone from our panel can answer this question.
Radiation. Well, we've done a lot of work, especially in Delft, no, in terms of measuring radiation coming from laptops, desktops, and cell phones. They're actually very minimal. No? It becomes problematic. For example, if you are in a control room where there are many electronic devices, like for example, a network room, no, where all the network connectivity are located and they're going back and forth where there's electronic signal. But it is only problematic for those that are in the first trimester of their pregnancy. But for regular people, for males, for example, we never become pregnant, so we do not have that problem. And for the young people, wala naman yung problema. And there has been a lot of scientific study that while there are sickness, it's minimal. It doesn't have any impact on the health of individuals. A lot of those are fake news.
Yes, that is so good to hear, Professor Pijano. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, and I think if ever man na merong ma-discover na mga health effects, I think there will also be available solutions to help us all cope with it. So at this point, I'd like to thank our speakers, President Caroline Marian S. Enriquez of PACU and ALFU, Mr. Benedicto Perez, CRM Head of PLDT Enterprise, Professor Vicente Antonio Pijano III, VP for Academic Administration and Institutional Development of Philippine Women's College of Davao, Dr. Cherilyn Santa Romana, and Engineer Bernard Villamor, President of Cebu Institute of Technology University. A lot of thanks from PLDT Enterprise and of course Paco for sharing your insights this morning. And of course, thank you everyone for joining this session. We really appreciate your time. And once again, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Omni La Rosa, and you just had #One with You virtual learning series, shifting the education paradigm in the time of COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you and good morning.